AT&T, Amazon, and Dell.
Federal workers.
Employees at the Washington Post, they are being ordered back to the office 5 days a week.
In the years following the pandemic, remote work became the new normal. But that's not the case anymore.
I think a lot of organizations threw a lot of trust that they had built up with their employees out the window when they shifted very quickly away from all of the rhetoric around this is our new normal.
Welcome back to the Future of Work Weekly Report. We brought in a special guest today, but he's sleeping on the job. So we're just going to go ahead, stay focused on the future of work for this episode because it's pretty important. We're digging into the headlines that I've seen everywhere. Gen Z loves The Office. But hold on. Does Gen Z actually want to be in the office 5 days a week? Or is that just the narrative certain execs and real estate folks want us to believe? We're going to separate fact from fiction and break down what Gen Z actually wants in the workplace and why in-person interaction doesn't necessarily mean a return to outdated office norms. If you're Gen Z, drop a comment and let us know what is it that you're looking for in the workplace. Is it in office? Is it remote? Is it hybrid? Or is it something that we're not even talking about? Help some of the leaders who watch this episode understand what it is that you guys are looking for. Now, let's get back to it. If you've seen headlines like Gen Z loves The Office, you might assume they're volunteering to give up remote work and cozy up to the nearest cubicle like they're in the first episode of Severance. But when you dig a little deeper into the actual articles, you'll find a much different picture. Gen Z doesn't want to be tethered to the desk. They want something better, intentional in-person time paired with flexibility.
Welcome back. 6:14 is the time this morning. The pandemic brought many challenges and changes, one of them being remote learning and work.
Yeah, consumer investigative reporter Jenna Ray finds Generation Z students who learned online during the COVID-19 shutdown now have different expectations as they enter the workforce.
A life-changing event for most of the world.
I started my entire career virtually.
In 2020, Becca Bell was a junior at UW-Madison.
The internship was supposed to be in person, and then it was transitioned online.
She and her peers forced to adapt to a virtual world.
Half of the girls said, absolutely, this is not something that I'm able to do. I need to be around other people and I need to be in person. The other half, like myself, said, this is the best case scenario for us. I'm able to get my work done at home. I'm way more efficient here. I want to keep doing this.
Now, Bell works remotely for a New York-based company and lives in the Midwest. A Forbes report shows Gen Z graduates are prioritizing different needs when job searching. They want hybrid or remote work, are looking for stronger mental health resources in the workplace, diversity, equity, and inclusion in the workplace, as well as an opportunity for career growth. Local professors here say they're seeing those same desires too.
This is a generation that has a very strong social consciousness.
This UW-Milwaukee assistant professor says Gen Zers care more about impact, a new outlook she says employers should expect.
I think it's helpful for leaders and companies to kind of take a step back. There is value in sort of being able to help translate that for this generation, and then maybe it makes you more flexible and adaptable to reevaluate that for yourself too.
As new college graduates enter the workforce, for them, it's more than cashing a paycheck.
That has since allowed me to travel home for my dad's retirement party. It has allowed me to spend summers up north while still working during the day and not taking PTO.
A lifestyle shift toward work-life balance and self-care.
The articles that we found for this episode calls out the importance of really digging in beyond the headlines. Fortune reports Gen Z favors hybrid models where they come in for collaboration and mentorship, but they don't want to commute 5 days a week. In Yahoo Finance, one survey shows Gen Z appreciates office time for learning, but that doesn't equal mandatory presence. And then Raconteur highlights that Gen Z wants structure, growth, and purpose, not proximity for proximity's sake, being in the office for no reason. And another Fortune piece goes even further, calling out that blaming Gen Z for resisting RTO is actually lazy. Remember the Jamie Dimon episode? And it misses the point entirely. It's not about entitlement. It's about systems that no longer work. So no, Gen Z is not trying to relive the boomer era 9 to 5 in office every day. They're just looking for the balance and a model that makes sense. That's not too much to ask.
HRs of companies all across the country have a huge concern. Companies used to think that keeping employees happy with, say, pay raises, promotions, maybe the occasional free snack were enough. But times have changed. Let's talk about Gen Z employees. Gen Z isn't just leaving jobs, they're leaving fast. This isn't just an HR problem anymore, it's a business survival problem. So why will Gen Z not settle? Let's break it down for you. Unlike previous generations, Gen Z has options, ton of them. They were raised in an era of, say, mental health awareness, digital entrepreneurship, limitless online opportunities. They don't need to stay in one workplace that doesn't serve them. If a company feels, say, outdated, stressful, doesn't align with their values, their thoughts, they're out. Why but? I'll tell you. Let's be real. It's easy to blame Gen Z for a bad work ethic. But what is the real issue here? Many workplaces have not evolved at all. They want workplaces where they feel safe, psychologically, emotionally, financially. They want to be valued, not just compensated. Studies show that when an employee is happy, they perform better, they collaborate more, they actually stay on in the company for longer. And some might say happiness is subjective. But then again, it's not just about beanbags, yoga sessions, or a foosball table. It's about crafting and creating a culture where employees feel heard, supported, trusted. That's why leading organizations are measuring workplace happiness as a business metric now, because engagement alone isn't enough.
Okay. Let's be honest, though. This narrative didn't come from nowhere. So who benefits from saying Gen Z wants to be in the office? Surprise! It's commercial landlords, legacy execs, and companies sitting on empty real estate. If you've poured billions into office space that's now gathering dust, you need to find a reason to justify keeping it. Apparently, that's where Gen Z enters. But what Gen Z actually wants has more to do with mentorship and opportunity, not mandatory 8 a.m. meetings and sad desk salads. Unless it's Panera. Panera's pretty good. Here's what Gen Z actually is asking for. Hybrid flexibility, a chance to collaborate in person without sacrificing autonomy. Career support, mentorship programs that don't rely on hallway run-ins or them pinging the person and forcing them to mentor them. Transparent growth plans, opportunities based on results, not who hangs around the longest. If you're like me, you've been there. First person in, last person out, working for a promotion. And then the last one that we call out here is clear expectations and structure, not surveillance. As one Gen Z contributor said in Fortune, we don't need to be seen, we need to be supported. Think about that. That is powerful. All they're asking for is a system that supports growth, no matter where they're working. And no, proximity bias doesn't count as a development strategy. We've seen this in organizations. Dell said that if you work remotely, don't expect a promotion. And they're just one example.
Even if it's only 60%, though, that is a big difference than what we were talking about 2 years ago. If you have 60% of your days in the office, 40% out, that's a bit of a big change, and it's probably going to require some massive kind of restructuring for offices, the way you set up your office, the way you have everything that comes down from when employees are in to when the bosses are.
I'm not sure. I agree with that line of thinking, Becky, from the standpoint of you're still going to want all of your people in the office for that 60%, and you're still going to have a percentage of those people that are going to voluntarily come in on Mondays and Fridays. You're going to have client pitches. You're going to have business units that are dipping and they need to get together more often. So I'm not sure that the office landscape will change. Maybe there's a 10% footprint reduction, but I believe that the office space is going to be fairly similar to what it's historically been. If you think about where we were at 6 months ago, people thought that we'd never be in the office more than 20 or 30% of the time, and those population could live all over. I don't see that happening. I think I read the article in the Journal and at the conference that happened last week, and the majority of, CEOs get bashed a lot. And the ones whose stock prices don't go up and they make millions of dollars, I get it. However, they're paid to have some vision in the future, not just 6 months, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years into the future. And what they're saying is that what we are seeing down the road is a need for people to work together. And if we asked everybody what they want, they'd want to not exercise and eat ice cream and pizza every day. Leaders have to lead, and they have to do what they believe is best for the long term for their employees.
That's a pretty paternalistic view.
And that's probably because some execs still think mentorship only happens when you're physically in the same space. But here's the truth. Mentorship is about access and intentionality, not geography. You can't fake mentorship just by forcing people into the same room. We know that by now. If the systems don't exist, proximity won't fix the problems. Gen Z is looking for clarity, regular feedback, and leaders who actually invest in their development, not just desk side visibility. The bar is so low that they're just asking people to do their jobs, for leaders to be leaders. Wow. So we talked about the problem. How do we create work that actually works for Gen Z and everyone else? It's simple. Build mentorship into your workflows, not your floor plans. Create clear criteria for promotions so advancement is about impact, not FaceTime or even proximity. Use hybrid as a strength. Combine flexibility with structure and support. And maybe, just maybe, stop blaming an entire generation for rejecting a model that was already breaking before they even entered the workforce.
I think will happen in the next few years. It will be more firms trying to call employees back to the office, but most firms will still be hybrid rather than 5-day return to office.
Ma believes that smaller firms will not follow the lead of larger ones on RTO because they can't afford to lose talent.
So the big firms can afford losing some talents in the short term, but the smaller firms are actually providing flexibility as a way to attract talents from the bigger competitors.
Two popular methods that organizations have used to adopt hybrid work models are to enforce a 3-day in-office mandate or use a team choice approach.
The team choice approach is better than 3 days in office mandates. When firms impose 3-day return to office mandates, it creates a big trust issue. Basically, the managers are telling employees that I do not believe you are actually working at home. In contrast, by allowing teams to make the best decisions for themselves, companies are actually empowering teams.
Organizations also have the option of reversing an RTO mandate based on employee feedback, like H&R Block did after initially announcing a 3-day in-office mandate.
One trend that's currently favoring employees is demographics. The population is aging and our workforce is set to shrink. As that shrinks, employers are going to have to do more to attract employees, and offering flexible work might be the thing that they have to do.
At the end of the day, there's a lot of people talking about RTO as a very simple answer for fixing a lot of very complicated and complex problems within organizations. Maybe it has a role in certain environments and in certain cases, done thoughtfully. But if we think we're going to kind of wave the magic RTO wand and fix some really fundamental problems in our organizations, we're going to be pretty disappointed.
Companies that get this right, they'll retain talent, boost engagement, and stay relevant. Companies that don't, Well, they'll keep publishing articles that say Gen Z is confused about the office when in fact, they're just not buying the outdated model that has been broken for decades. So next time you see a headline claiming Gen Z is bringing back the office, pause. Ask who's saying it and what they're trying to sell. Because Gen Z doesn't want the office of yesterday. They want a better system, one that gives them access, mentorship, and growth without the nonsense of badge swipes and clock watching. Thanks for tuning in to this week's Future of Work Weekly Report. Drop your thoughts in the comments, subscribe, and send this to anyone who thinks hybrid is a passing trend. We'll see you on the next episode where we'll bring more clarity to the chaos of the workplace.